Hello and welcome to the UK Flooring Podcast. This week, Brandon from Roomvo. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
It's not bad. Morning where you are at the moment, is that right? We're in the afternoon. What time is it there?
It's morning. It's 9:15 in the morning. So you got me. If I stumble, it's maybe I'm half asleep, but it's late enough that I should be good to go here.
You got your coffee.
I have had two coffees, so now I'm really good to go. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, obviously we've been working together for quite a while now. Bumped into each other, I think, 2 years ago at the flooring show. But for the uninitiated that they should know, but first of all, who's Roomvo for the people that maybe new to the podcast?
Yeah, totally. So Roomvo has been around for around 7 years now. We're a Canadian-based company, and we are the leading visualization platform in the world. We have a suite of digital tools that we provide to the home improvement industry that allow for a more engaging shopper experience. And at the core of that is the Roomvo Visualizer. It lets customers, within just seconds, take a photo of their room
Yep.
and upload it into our tool. And from there, they can change the floors, the countertops, the walls, and they can bring their dream room to life. And we're not talking about a preset room here. We're talking about their room, right? So it really helps them visualize what their room will look like, instill confidence in them, and it really pushes that customer journey forward.
No, I love that. It's so we've been working on in the last 12 months. You guys have, but we've obviously helped you. Let's speak to some UK manufacturers to sort of get those guys on board, which you've done. Can you name drop any of the guys in the UK you're working with right now?
Totally. I can name drop some of them, and if I miss some, please forgive me. Like I said, it's the morning, but yeah, in just the last year probably or two, we've gotten the likes of AS Creation. There are some Swiss Chrono brands, Cortec, Kraus, Sierra, TLC, Lewis Abbott has joined the platform, Levanto, and even some of the Parador brands. We work with tons and tons of more, but those are brands who have actually offered their visualizer for free to retailers, fitters. So if you work with any of the brands I just listed, you can actually add Roomvo to your website for free today. And then in the UK, we also work with tons of massive retailers, Carpetright, Tapi. We're working with some of the really big players overseas there to help engage customers in a whole new and exciting way.
No, I love that. And for me, in layman's terms, I love the way that traditional flooring is. You come into a store and then you look around and you sort of, you do a sort of circle around a shop or someone brings you samples. And then it's all critical on the actual sample board itself. If you haven't got a world-class piece of sample, it's very difficult for someone to see how it's going to look. And that's the problem you've solved, where you could have even a smaller sample. And when, as you pointed out, within seconds, not minutes, seconds, it can show you, the result. So this is what you're buying in the exact area, and that's the thing that changed it for me, because I'm all for client experience of how to heighten, in any environment, how to heighten the client experience. And that's what, in any flooring environment, you're buying a result. You're not, it's, a sexy sample or a big fancy retail display or a retail store. But in the end, you just want a lovely floor at home. So people want to see what that's going to look like. And that, to me, is what you guys, and again, others have tried, and it's a little bit clunky and it's a bit painful to use. Yours is, for me, when I've spent many hours messing with yours, and it's it's on our site, it's just painless, and that's the thing that I think it makes it easier. But we're not. So hopefully, people that have not listened to the podcast can kind of understand. But we're not here to talk about that. We're talking about a little secret project me and you've been cooking up that I'm sure that I think has hit North America quite hard, and now we hope to bring it into the UK market. I think you'd be the best person to, because I know what it is, I know the secret. What have we been working on, Brandon?
This is it. We're ready for the big release now.
Yeah,
You're okay
we're just gonna
with these?
drop. We're just gonna go drop it in, and then we might backtrack again. But yeah, let's just drop it because people are like, "What are they been talking about?"
Yeah, yeah. So we've been working on what we're kind of coining the showroom of the future, and we're super excited that it's available today. And it's not one of those things that you have to. We're gonna tease out and that you're gonna have to wait months or even years for. What we've kind of done is we've sat back and we've said, okay, if we could bring digital revolution to the flooring industry, what would that look like? What would that dream showroom look like? And what can we do today to get us there? And so what we did was we brought technology into the flooring journey in really unique and simple ways that enhance the journey and bring a wow factor to shopping for floors. And it all starts with a customer walking into your showroom. You might have seen QR codes on samples before,
Yeah,
but it's pretty rare to see a QR code that, when scanned, it goes right into a visualizer on your website, by the way, not on the manufacturer's website, on your site. So it's keeping customers in your environment. And it lets customers see what that product that they just scanned will look like in their space. And I think it's important to start there because I know we've done even more, but I think we should start there because a lot of QR codes on samples today, they're not working for you.
no,
They're not selling for you, right? You might open them up and they're going to take the customer to the manufacturer's website. They're going to look at specs for the product, and I'm not, by the way, suggesting that specs aren't important, but they're not the thing that's going to make the customer fall in love with the product.
yeah.
Seeing that product in their space, that's what's going to help them fall in love. And once you've fallen in love with a product, then it's a lot easier to sell it and get into the nitty gritty details. So we start there. Is there anything that I'm missing on that front before we get to maybe the coolest part of the showroom?
No, I think the critical thing, because people will be saying, well, I've got a retail store and Mrs. Jones just walks in off the street and we've got this technology, obviously with QR, and they haven't taken a photo of the room. So I think for me, obviously they'll have to land on a website or a social media. I think the message, first of all, is the selling point is bring a photograph. I've discovered more in landscape. Landscape works better on, but it will work on portrait of the room you are thinking of doing, or the rooms. So for me, that's the critical thing: is speaking, communicating on a phone or even just digitally before you come to store. You don't have to, because we've got a solution for it if you don't see that message. But for me to get the best out of this experience is bring me a photograph of you stood at the entrance to this room. So that's one thing I think I would want to cover, because there will be people saying, well, it's a bit late if they've already got there. And I think, well, no, it's all about messaging. It's all about this is what to expect when you get to store. You wouldn't go to a car wash without your car. So, if you're going to go to a flooring showroom, you need to take a photograph of the room. Everyone has a mobile phone. So yeah, that's one point. But no, keep rolling. We'll keep the drum roll going with this just gets better.
Cool, yeah. And so then it becomes the question of, okay, Brandon, they're saying that we're going to put QR codes on our products, but this kind of begs two questions. The first is, well, what products can I put these QR codes on? And two, how am I going to put QR codes on these products? Like I don't know how to make QR codes. I don't know. I don't have that expertise. And so I'm incredibly excited to share that everything we've done here, we've made incredibly streamlined and incredibly simple and incredibly affordable. Let's talk about what products are eligible for this experience that we're talking about. Any brand that works with Roomvo has the ability to join our Roomvo Partner Program. What that means is the brand works with us and they opt into a program that gives their products and their visualizer to anyone who works with those products. So all of those brands that I listed at the beginning, the Cortex, the AS Creation, the Paradors, Sierra, if you carry just one of those brands, or if you carry multiple, you're going to be able to add a visualizer to your website for free with as few or as many of those brands, so that customers are going to be able to go onto your website or go into your showroom use the visualizer across all of those products, and never leave your website once. They will never go to a manufacturer's site again. And that's important for you, the retailer or the fitter, because the manufacturer's websites, they've got dealer locators, right? And retailer locators. You're essentially sending the customer off of your website where they can find the local competition. So we're going to eliminate that for you. We're going to add a visualizer to your website with all of the brands that you carry. And once you're done doing that, we've actually invested in a QR code generator that will help you within seconds create QR codes for all of the products in your showroom for those brands. So we're slowly unpacking it here, but if we start at the beginning, you're going to add a free visualizer. It's going to have all the brands you carry, and we're constantly adding more. You're then going to add the QR codes to your showroom so that customers can go scan samples, bring those products to life in their room. And that should be enough. But we thought we got to do something a little bit bigger. There's one last thing that we can do to really elevate the experience.
Yeah.
And that's our kiosk. Tom, you've put together some pretty cool content in the last couple of weeks that I've been impressed by. But if you haven't seen it, first of all, you're not following the right social media channels. They should probably go follow you on Instagram. But second of all, what we said was, what if we could bring this experience to a 40-inch, 43-inch touchscreen display for the showroom? What if a customer could come in, put their room on a massive screen, and then walk around your showroom, scan those QR codes from around the showroom to pick a curated list of the products that they love the most, and then come back to that display and put those products, again, on a 40-inch touchscreen display right into their room so that they can see what that floor will look like without having to rely on a small sample, without having to squint their eyes, tilt their head, hope for the best. What if we could remove all of the doubt from the shopping experience so that a fitter, a retailer, whoever it might be, can close a deal on the spot?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing. And I'm pretty excited about it because I think it's going to be a game changer.
I completely agree. I think this, as I said, bringing the photograph in, going round a store, looking at different samples from different brands, and then I'm a big advocate of a flooring professional shouldn't be telling the client what they should have. They should be asking some really good questions and then putting in front of them suitable products, and then the client can make that decision. But using that, you could have the screen that's on, which in seconds, I haven't timed it, but I think it's under 20 seconds, you can get the room that you're thinking of doing. So we've got that, we know what we're dealing with. Then they can go on the store, no matter how big the store is, they can go around, scan those pictures. And then for me, the next game changer, which everyone loves, is the comparison slider. So for everyone on the podcast that, we're going to release photographs of this. There's more to come on this as well. You'd think that we'd stop there, but there's more. The main thing is it's all touch screen, so there's no buttons to push. There's nothing to do that, and you can slide between, let's say, a LVT herringbone and a plank timber floor, and it's instantaneous. That is instant. There's no second delay. You slide your finger across, and it has herringbone. You slide it across, it has plank. If you don't like the orientation of the plank, within 1 second, you can change the way you would lay it. So I love speed. Within under 10 minutes, we can have on a 43-inch screen the photograph of the finished result with 5 options. And I think one thing that you pointed out a few months ago was also it has the function to add another room. So if there is an upsell to, I'm considering the kitchen in 3-4 months' time or next year, we could also put an LVT tile in the kitchen. So this client has walked in, suddenly we have the living room with a straight layer plank, and then we also have on the same screen the kitchen, and we haven't even visited the property yet. Or if we have, We have it on our phone that is linked to our own website, and we are not taking this is our website, we're a professional company. You can also do it in the home. So for the fitters in the van, it could be a possibility to have it loaded on if you're supported by the manufacturers. So there's a couple of points that we need to look at is how do the manufacturers, I mean, you've got some manufacturers that currently use the platforms such as V4, Brampton Chase, some of the big brands. They currently don't offer this at the moment. However, how do those guys get involved, and how will the end client know that they are offering this service?
Yeah, good question. So essentially, there's manufacturers who don't work with Roomvo at all. That's different. But then there's manufacturers like you just mentioned, Brampton Chase, V4. These are manufacturers who work with Roomvo. They're just not on our partner program yet, right? They just don't offer their version of their visualizer for free to their retailers. And more often than not, it's actually just because they're still gauging demand, right? They still want to see if there's enough demand from their retailers and their fitters. And so it's really simple. Once they are convinced that it's time to move forward, and I think they will be as time goes on, just quickly for reference, in North America, we have over 100 brands on that partner program with well over 5,000 retailers using it, just to give you scope of how big this can really get. So look, if you're a Brampton Chase, if you're a V4, you work with Roomvo, and you want to start offering your visualizer for free, you just reach out to your Roomvo rep. You could even reach out to me. I'd be happy to help. But whoever your dedicated manager is at Roomvo, they're more than capable of sitting down, walking through the program with you, and we can get that up and running within a few days of you saying yes. It's really it's what we do. We have a really ironed out process for that, and what a great gift to give your retailers, right? You're able to put a whole marketing campaign around, hey, we're supporting you. Of course, it's a sales tool ultimately for the manufacturer, but we're supporting you. And we've invested in digital tools to make it easier for you to sell our products, but to provide an elevated customer experience. I don't know if there's a better gift to give your retailers just to show that you care.
No. I think there's 2 points as well. One, which you didn't mention, but I think it's worth mentioning because I challenged you on it. You went from 2 manufacturers that had signed up to this program to hundreds of manufacturers, and I was like, well, how long did that take, Brandon? I'm expecting you to say, since we started 7 years, no, 3 years. Was it 3 years? And it was, you're into the hundreds. So it caught on relatively quick, and these are $1 billion flooring businesses. This, in the US, some of the ones that are signed up with you guys. And I think another thing that I think is also good with using technology for this, because traditionally in England, you get a price list, it gets updated. Sometimes you go to PDF, sometimes you get it in the post, etc. And then the manufacturers have got this cost of keep sending this out. And I was actually speaking to one of the directors at V4, and he's like, look, they're costing us £4.50 per client. We've got 600 clients to post them out. I mean, I know we're in 2023 at the moment, very shortly 24. And we're still using postal service. But the key point I'm going to make is he also dropped into conversation that they're investing huge quantities of money to re-photograph their products to a higher level. It's already good, but they're wanting to heighten that experience, and they're going to send the imagery that they're investing in directly to you guys. And then what will happen is once you guys put it onto your servers or onto your tech, instantly it arrives in Darlington on our kiosk. So when people change the SKUs, the products, explain to me a little bit so that I understand it. So I want to try and get across to the listeners this instantaneous about new ranges, instant. How does that work?
Yeah, so I think there are some nuances with the Roomvo kiosk, right? Folks think about showroom displays, and this is something that has been in the industry forever, right? That's your sales tool. It's the display with the samples that are in it. But when manufacturers release new collections, samples, one of two things happens, right? Someone has to go in and remove samples to bring new samples in, right? Or in a worst case scenario, you're replacing the whole display, like they've completely revamped it. And displays are expensive. Replacing samples, you just said it yourself, not cheap. It's not free either. But when a manufacturer works with Roomvo and they update their products with Roomvo, the second that they do it, everyone who uses the visualizer with that brand will immediately get that product update pushed to them. So if you say, hey, Roomvo, I carry V4, and V4 updates a new collection in our visualizer, the moment that goes live, that same second, every single person who has V4 products in their version of Roomvo will get access to that catalog or to that collection without having to do anything. It's not like you have to download something, you don't have to log into a platform. You're just going to have it. And if you have a kiosk in your showroom, that kiosk is automatically going to get updated. Now that sounds awesome on its own, but let me make it a little bit more exciting. The Roomvo visualizer, and I've said it a few times, but I want to make sure I'm clear here. It's one tool for all of your brands. So unlike your traditional display that is really laser focused on one brand, this is one display that will have all of your brands and it will always be up to date. This is essentially the ultimate display that is future proofed because all of our tech updates go into it and we're investing heavily into the software. And all of the manufacturer product updates, again, automatically show up in it. This is just a sales tool that continues to get better as time goes on without not minimal effort, without any effort for you as the owner of it.
I think the other thing that, again, I love challenging things. So it was another challenge we set was some retailers obviously love the brands, love the bigger brands, and that sometimes creates revenue. But other clients could go the full debranded method or a combination of both. So let's just give an example. We've got a decent sized retailer. He's got some of the brands, but he also brings in some stock from somewhere else in the world. He's got 20 SKUs, and no one else has got it. And it's in white boxes, and no one else has got it. What's the solution for that?
Yeah. Long story short is that we have a solution for every retailer. So in your scenario there, we have a plan designated just for retailers in that exact situation where, look, they still have to do some work, right? They have to give us the images and the specs for those products because Roomvo doesn't know what they look like, what their dimensions are, what their name is. But we have a very ironed out process for retailers to essentially transfer those images and specs to us. And within just a couple of weeks, we'll have that collection or however many SKUs it is added to the visualizer. It's incredibly hands-off. In fact, most retailers who are doing this probably have photos already of the products because they want to put it on their website. They want to display those. And so we can typically reuse those images. Of course, we have specs, so we'll work with you to get there, but nothing's off the table. If you want to get your 20 SKUs up there with your 5 manufacturers, you don't need different visualizers. We'll combine them into one, and we'll help you generate the QR codes for those private label SKUs. We'll help get those into your kiosk. This is one big system. It's not like we separate the experience. This is just one ultimate sales tool.
So people can understand, because obviously me and you know exactly what these things look like. It's a 43-inch, what looks like a television as such, that could either be has a very nice black stand or could possibly change colour, but ours is black, or it can be mounted to the wall like a standard LED TV on a standard bracket. So the key thing is client comes in and we either use a stock image if they've missed the message, and if they hopefully haven't missed the message, they bring a picture of their room into the store. That gets loaded within milliseconds, and then they browse the store, no matter how big the store is, scanning the QR codes. they go onto the system, and then we go back to the screen with a cup of coffee or tea, and we have an instant visualization of what the flooring job is going to look like. And then from there, again, super painlessly, we can add lounge, dining room, bedroom, kitchen, all to the same screen. And then the other thing that I think is great if you've already been out to the property. I mean, again, you might have already been to estimate this, so the estimator might have already gathered the photos you need. That's the other way you can do this if you've estimated and bring them into the store. The other thing, again, within 2 clicks, you can then email either to your estimation team or to the client. So that's my understanding. Can you give us some real life examples in North America of retailers who have embraced this, using this every day, and then maybe the results those guys got?
Yeah, we are in hundreds of showrooms, Roomvo, around the country, and the reception that we get. I'll tell you, I was at a show, a trade show, not that long ago, and 2 ladies were talking, and I was not even involved in the conversation. I was just sitting there, and I guess Roomvo's logo had been put on the screen, and one lady asked the other, "Have you heard of them? Do you use them?" And she said, "Not only do we use them, but we got their kiosk recently. I don't know if you've seen it." And she starts explaining it. And by the way, I should have given her a job because she sold the kiosk better than I've ever sold the kiosk. But so she's talking to this lady, and really, does it work, right? And the lady looked at her and she said, "Does it work? I sold 2 jobs last week alone just using the kiosk. I on the spot. Like, it's just unbelievable." So I have heard, I've gotten to hear many stories like that. I've gotten many people who have called me and asked me if they can get a discount on, if they buy X amount more in bulk. In terms of how it's used, I've gotten so many cool stories throughout the year, so many creative ways. Everything from the person who just has a van, right, and just goes into homes with a bunch of samples with the QR codes on, just like you said, and they'll take a photo of the room that the customer is looking to renovate. Then they'll scan the QR code on the sample, right, to bring up the visualizer right to that product. They'll show them, the customer jaws drop, and then the in-home measurement person says, "Why don't I take a picture of this, the kitchen, right? And by the way, we can do countertops, walls, and floors." So they take a picture of the kitchen. They weren't even planning on redoing the kitchen. Next thing they know, you spend 20 minutes messing around with the tool just because it's fun, right? Just because it's addicting. What would it look like with this tile on the wall? What would it look like with this countertop? Next thing you know, you've upsold them on a room that they've never expected to even renovate. And what was the cost, by the way, of doing this, of this upsell? Time. And not a lot, by the way, 20 minutes. So we've had customers who have done that. We've had customers who have changed their sales process to demand from their retail sales staff that the visualizer is included in the pitch, and they monitor this to make sure. So like any tool, it's only as good as how much it's adopted, right? How much it's used. It can be the best tool in the world. If no one uses it, it doesn't matter. It collects dust. And so where we're proud is that we've made it so easy for people to use that as long as there is some basic management and enforcement around the process, just like anything, you're going to extract value, even if you get the free version that you add to your website. You close one sale, and it's just a no-brainer. Like, why not?
For me, why wouldn't you use it? And again, this is not a, yes, we would like people to use it. Yes, there's a sales element of it, but for me, I don't see it as all the manufacturers are slowly but surely coming across to visualization. You can compare different products, which, again, controversial. Some manufacturers might not like, but for me, as an ex-retailer, I think you are doing a disservice if you don't show most manufacturers in your store. As long as you believe them, you shouldn't really have something in your store if you don't want to trade with them. So you should be able to have a wide selection that you've hand selected, and then I think that's been the biggest problem, that people can't see what it looks like. A question from one of the listeners was, do you plan, like a lot of software does, are there going to be any integrations with accounting software or software? Is there any plans 24 for working with different companies that can bring, I don't know, measurements or anything like that? What have you got? Anything in the bag for that?
Yeah, obviously I can't give away too many surprises here,
No.
but I can definitely give. Let me share our philosophy as a company for listeners who don't know this. We understand that the independent retailer, they all have different needs. They all have different businesses. They all have different software stacks that they use, right? So they might have a CRM, an ERP, an accounting software. They might have nothing, right? I don't know. Maybe they have a website, maybe they don't. We still have retailers who don't have websites. The point that I guess I'm trying to make is that everyone is different. And so in that pursuit, we have taken the stance that we need to be flexible so that we can fit easily into every retailer's business, as opposed to getting them to bend towards our way of doing things. We want to be flexible and adapt to the way that the retailer works. And so in North America, we already actually integrate with the leading ERP and accounting software. It's called Qfloors. We also integrate into several digital marketing agency websites so that if you get a website through them, it comes with Roomvo built in. And as a company, we will do whatever we can to integrate with any platform that the retailers use. If there's a way to streamline the process for the retailer and help them get more value out of both of the tools, whatever the original one is, and of course Roomvo. So look, retailers, you're listening. If you have Roomvo and you got another tool and you're like, hey, there would be an awesome connection point here. We'd get a ton of value if you could connect these two. And you made, the obvious one, the ERP accounting. Yeah, the answer is just yes, we'll do it. We can't prioritize all of them for obvious reasons, but we will do it, and we will add it to our roadmap, I should say. And that's the stance we've always taken, and it just works. It makes sense for the retailer.
Well, and probably on that subject, and you might have some secrets you can't tell us, but I'll ask anyway. Using AI, so let's say contractor does a lot of new build properties where when the measurements are being done, there is just brickwork and a window. There is no sofa. There is nothing. It's not even plastered. So the question they were asking was, is there going to be an AI integration? Or, I mean, we've tested it. There is software out there that can do it, and they'll generate a picture. Yes, you can then put that into the kiosk under software, and it works instantly. So you can do it manually. But do you think for those guys, are Roomvo, have they messed with it to think, can you magically put a sofa, magically put a kitchen into a space?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's obviously only so much that we can ever give away, but let me start by saying for the last 7 years of us being in business, AI has actually always been a core part of our visualizer. I know it's a big buzzword these days, but we were sort of at the forefront with other companies, don't get me wrong, but this has been something that we have invested heavily in. And it's what makes our tool so good. For even the photos that you upload, there's a ton of tech that goes into that. In terms of the net new build, there's two ways to think about that. There's just the independent contractor who's working on someone's house, and that's the scenario you described. And then there's the property development side of things where they're going to make the same property or the same room, dozens of times, and they want to help the consumer pick the finishings for that model room, let's say. So for the first one, the contractor renovating just one-off kitchen, we don't have anything per se today that helps you put a kitchen in a blank space, but that's where our preset rooms come in. So we have a library of rooms, of different kitchens, bathrooms, bedrooms, right? And you could even request other rooms from us. And I don't know what the difference is really at that point, right? I mean, this is a kitchen, and who's to say that it's not the kitchen that in your scenario you've just dropped into an empty space. It's a preset room. It looks great. It gives you all the functionality of Roomvo, so you can put all of these manufacturers' products in that preset room. And for the property development folks, we can actually help build a virtual model of that room that you're going to be selling dozens of times so that you can create a virtual design studio. So even if the room doesn't exist yet and you have the blueprints, we can help you build a virtual version of the room, and then you can send that out to the hundreds of home buyers that you're trying to help accelerate the design process. So from the comfort of their home, they can actually design with the different finishings. Usually there's different packages of floors and wall tiles. So we can create essentially a custom version of Roomvo that helps customers essentially design their dream version of the homes you're building and create a much more scalable process with significantly less overhead that typically comes from a design center. So we definitely have solutions for everyone in that field.
Brilliant. Love it. And then the party piece we've kind of left, not really to the end, but that we haven't even mentioned yet. So we've tipped on it. But we are still in construction stage, but we are looking close. So between me and yourself, we have installed a live showroom in our training centre in Darlington that anyone from the UK and beyond is free to come and have a look. The thing that I've done to make it deliberately, one, because we had limited space, but I did it also to create a point. So we have circa 300 samples, 300 to 350 samples, plus additional storage for another 200 of, let's say, slower moving products. So let's say 500 products. We have put a 43-inch kiosk into the center of this display. We have stills, we have a coffee machine, we have beer. And the key thing for this is it's 17 square meters. And, that for me, and I'm not dismissing that people have big showrooms, that's totally cool. But we've put a 500 sample with still large samples of the best sellers and then a smaller version, and a screen, and a way to get coffee, and a way to drink beer, and a way to sit down in a smaller than a standard UK living room. And that's what, obviously, the reveal is, that anyone who currently is in a retailer or even just in a van that wants to mess with a thing can come to Darlington for free and mess with the software is probably the best. We'll be doing training dedicated to, I'm going to call it monetizing visualization, because that's what we're doing. We're all selling flooring to try and feed our children or our loved ones. That's, in theory, what we're doing in one way or the other. Because for me, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. So one thing everyone's going to be asking is, is it £20,000? How much is it, Brandon? So retail are thinking they're going to come up with a big number here, but investment-wise, how much is it?
Is this my chance to say it's £1 million just to really get people? Yeah, no, it's much more affordable. So
pay monthly.
It's between 20. It's monthly. There you go. I would love that. It's between 2,800 and 3,200 pounds one time, depending on where you are, just because of shipping fees. And then it's £100 a month. That's a subscription to the Roomvo Visualizer. That includes all product updates, includes all software updates, so you have the most up-to-date catalogs, you have the most up-to-date version of Roomvo, and we're constantly investing in this thing quite aggressively for what it's worth to ensure that you guys are getting, like that new compare function that you just said, Tom, that's new, relatively new, within the last 4 to 6 months. And as soon as we dropped that feature, we rolled it out to all kiosks overnight. So you're going to get the most up-to-date version. And look, if you don't care about the kiosk, I hope you care about beer, right? So people should at least be coming to check it out. Like I might get on a plane and just come for the beer, right? Like that makes sense.
It's an absolute necessity. So yeah, and the key thing for me, let's say take the average of that, it's £3,000 to purchase it. You own it. That's the difference. So if you change your manufacturers, I don't work with these guys anymore. You can ring Roomvo or email your representative and say, look, guys, we now work with this guy and not this guy. and instantly you change it. So you're not. Some manufacturers won't thank me for this, but I don't like the pressure some of the manufacturers put on retailers to either invest in big stands, big point of sale, to help them. I get it that they want to increase the numbers. I get it that they want domination in the store, but you're paying the rent, you're paying the mortgage, you're paying your staff. So it is your business. And that's what the key thing with the kiosk is. It's yours. And as your business evolves and as Roomvo evolves, so does the software instantly. So it's a kind of one-time investment as your business matures. So that for me is a no-brainer, because it's got its place. Some manufacturers do offer great packages, but I think this is a better way using integrity when you're selling flooring, because you can offer different products.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you compare it to the traditional display, those aren't cheap. And those displays are locked into one brand, subject to change if the design and the collections within that display are altered in the future, and also subject to becoming obsolete, like you said, if you just don't carry that brand anymore. This is a display that £3,000 one time, again, for the hardware, but the £100 a month subscription for a display that never goes out of style. And I mean that, right? It never goes out of style. That, by the way, helps you sell proactively, engages the customer, helps them fall in love, to shorten the sales cycle and increase the margins. You sell one job on that every year, and it pays for itself. And that's just one. Yeah. Right? And it pays for itself for years that at that rate. So, maybe there's another elephant in the room to address, and you have your controversial opinion about manufacturers wanting to dominate. There's always been this other question that we've had, and you challenged me on it too, and I appreciate the challenge. Why would a manufacturer join a platform where other brands are in the tool?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think it's important because there's going to be skeptics on the call, right? And so you go into a retailer showroom or you go on their website. Find me one where there's just one brand. Like, it's very rare. It's possible. But most of the time, if that exists, it's because it's the manufacturer's signature showroom.
Yeah.
It's rare that an independent retailer just aligns themselves exclusively with one brand. It's not impossible, but it's rare. This is systemic to the industry. This is how it's always been. And it's not crazy to take a step back and realize, if this is my showroom, I need a digital presence, my website, the kiosk, whatever the tools are, that matches this experience. The retailer demands this, right? It's not even like a nice to have. In fact, I'll tell you a story. When we started offering our visualizer for free to retailers, we didn't understand this. We thought that it made more sense to have a branded visualizer because we thought manufacturers would not opt into the program otherwise. And so at that time, you had to pick a brand. If you wanted Roomvo for free, you had to pick a brand. And people added it, and 24 hours later, people would remove it from their website. And I'd call them, what happened? It's a free sales tool. Like, what is the downside here? It's a free tool. And they made this point. They said, the downside is that it makes it seem like I only sell one brand.
Yeah.
I don't want a customer going on my website or coming into my showroom and thinking that I don't have a huge selection for them to pick from. And not an overwhelming selection, but they need breadth, right? And that's always been the case. Well, I'll tell you what, as soon as we opened up the floodgates to allow multiple brands, not only did people add it and keep it on their website, but they actually started to proactively use it in the sales process, which then attracted the eyes of more manufacturers who said, we got to get in here too. We don't want to be left behind. So if there are skeptics on the call, both on the retailer or manufacturer side, about if this will work, I go back to North America, hundreds of brands, 5,000 plus retailers. I don't think it will work. I know it will work.
I was going to say when it works.
The winners are the ones who adopt it and embrace it the soonest, because they get this massive field, right, of just open space and all the potential in the world to wow customers and support retailers. And so it's a when. It's not an if.
I think the other thing that I love at the moment, we're running the Roomvo screensaver, which is super professional. But the other thing, when
Yeah.
people invest in the kiosk, they get their own screensaver. So you would turn it on when you open your store, and it's to the level. What's the word, like you would see in McDonald's, or you would see in the big brands, like I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. But it's that level of professionalism on the screensaver, and then you're straight into the software. So it's quite a cool addition to have when a client walks in, to sort of showcase your work and showcase your brand, rather than showcasing someone else's brand, like a manufacturer. And again, that's always been on this podcast a little bit controversial, because there is people that do debranding, there is people that have multi-brands, there's some that jump into bed with just one brand. All are totally cool. We're not going to slate different business, different purpose. But for this, for me, your name's above the door, you walk in, and then you've got an awesome screen that you can see from every angle. So it's not like a TV monitor from 82. It is something that looks like you would see in a chain store. And obviously if they have multiple stores, that's cool. But it's that also, I think, adds to the value. Never mind the technology behind it. I just think it's an impressive thing to see. And then it's painless. I think that's what other feedback I've had with retailers we work with is some of the other room visualizers are a bit painful and a bit clunky, and the idea is the same. But when something becomes clunky and difficult, it then doesn't get used. My 7-year-old son can use this with his eyes shut, and he loves it. So and he's not that tech savvy. So what I'd like to do now, Brandon, because you're not getting away from it, on the podcast we always ask some personal questions, because we can talk all day about the room visualizer, but we want to know a little bit about who is behind the brand. So I think it's just bringing personality. So people, if you reach out to people, at least they know who you are. So when you're not visualizing rooms, what do you do in your spare time?
I'm a big reader. I love reading. Actually, about to finish the Lord of the Rings trilogy, so that's my inner nerd coming out. And then once the snow starts in Canada, a lot of people complain, but I put my skis on and I hit the slope. So, reading and skiing and music. Those are probably the three passions outside of work.
Number one business book you've ever read?
Oof, that's a tough one. How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. I mean, look, these are things that I don't know if you can really go through life without having to incorporate sales in some capacity into your
No.
day to day, and understanding the fundamentals of people and what makes them tick, and a lot of the things you subconsciously do, bringing it to the conscience. That I think is super powerful. So I think that's got to be one of the most important ones.
No, great book. Love that one. What is the worst bit of advice you've ever been given?
The worst bit of advice. I've given some bad advice. I'll tell you at least in this job. I started at Roomvo 4.5 years ago, and at the time, they gave me the goal of, hey, will retailers want to use Roomvo? This is way before 5,000 retailers had Roomvo on their site. This was when like zero had Roomvo, and someone in the company at the time, who's no longer here, and we won't name names, but someone came up to me within like the first 2 days and said, "Don't waste your time. Retailers will never use a visualizer." And that was bad advice. That was bad, but I will say it definitely got to my head. But that was bad advice, because in just 4.5 years we've taken 33-50% of the North American market. So dead wrong, um, and I think it illustrated to me that a lot of people don't know what they're talking about in some cases. That there's a lot of reasons to not do something. Find one reason to do it and just kind of put your head down. And don't underestimate the little guy. That's kind of what makes them powerful. And I think that comment was about the little guy won't get it, and couldn't have been more wrong. And so I'm super happy that I didn't listen to it. But that was bad advice.
I imagine he probably used one of my favorite expressions, which when he said that, you were just like, "Watch this."
Yeah. Like,
5,000
okay,
retailers later. Yeah, watch this.
sounds good. Exactly. No problem.
Love it. To get the best out of you and your team, how do you start your day?
It's actually less about starting the day, and it's more about how do you start the week. Um, I find that Monday, Tuesday, those two are the big ones for setting up the team, and so uh, I spend a lot of time um, focusing on just two things: where do we want to go as a team, and what do we stand for as people, as a team, as a company. And the whole philosophy has always been: if they know how to make decisions and they know where we want to go, then the decisions that they make will be the right decisions. It might not be the best decision; it doesn't mean that they've optimized everything because we're not robots, but an immense amount of effort is spent at the beginning of the quarter, the year, and the week on who are we and where are we going. I have found that that has given the most leverage, and I've seen the people at this team and the company grow night and day in some cases, in relatively short amounts of time, in many cases, and it's always worked.
I love that because that's one of our philosophies in one way, but I even like it to be more cemented because it's quite a tradition, certainly in the UK, that people set these goals, set these aspirations, and then they lose 4 months, and they're like, "Do you remember
Yeah,
when we were going to do this?" And or we've
yeah,
been busy, or well, it's there's always an excuse or something else, and they just then come back, and then I suppose it's like New Year's resolutions, losing weight, or I'm going to drop
yeah,
20 pounds, and they get to November and they're like, I'm 25 pounds heavier. Yeah, it's it's the same principle, but if you're getting up every quarter, every month, every week, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. It gets a little bit boring when you're not 20 pounds lighter. So it's
yeah.
yeah, and it's just that reinforcement of who you are, what you want to achieve, and when it's going to happen. That's the key thing for me. Is it's great saying, but doing is the when. When will it be done by? 5 years time, where do you think we'll be in business with visualization? If you could fast forward to the future.
Oof, where do I think we'll be? I think we're going to be there a lot faster than people think, too, by the way. I don't even think 5 years. I think we're going to be in a place where I don't know how many people are even in business if they haven't embraced technology, and I mean that seriously, right? Uh, I really think we're getting to a place really fast. I think COVID accelerated where if you don't embrace technology, someone around you will, and the shopping experience is just going to be better. Their close rates are going to be through the roof. They're going to be able to command higher margins, and with that, if they're smart, they're going to invest in the digital advertising thing, or digital advertising side of things, to bring even more eyeballs into their showroom. And so I believe that that will create a spiral where those who don't invest in digital ads, don't invest in adding technology to their process, they just become obsolete and they disappear. I think that we're also going to see a monumental shift in the consumer expectation. I think that it will be expected that you have technology. People will no longer be surprised in 5 years by the kiosk. And so that's why today, those who do it, that's that wide open field that I was talking about. That's the wow factor. But in 5 years, if you haven't incorporated technology into your sales process, you're going to let the customer down as opposed to wow them. So I think it's a combination of you won't even be part of the selection set because you won't be found, and that's how customers are going to double. 87% of customers today are already starting the shopping journey online. So if you're already not there, you're pretty much on the brink of extinction. And in 5 years, you probably are extinct. And if you aren't incorporating tech into the day to day, I think you've probably let the customer down because they're. You said it not that long ago. I think it's brilliant. McDonald's has touchscreen kiosks. You're ordering pop and burger off of a touchscreen. Like if you don't think that's coming for floors, you're just sleeping, right? Like that's just reality.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. I was more even saying it's the same experience, but it's just dawned on me there that even ordering a Big Mac is now that simple. Yeah, you see a picture of it, and then it arrives, and you put it in your mouth. So it's like,
These are
yeah,
the same people, by the way, the same people who are ordering the Big Mac. Those are the same people who are going to walk into your showroom. So giving me the excuse of they don't know how to use it or they're not going to embrace technology. they've embraced it to order their Poppin' Big Mac. They're going to embrace it to change their. Don't tell me that they don't know what they're doing or that they're not going to embrace it. Ours is less touches to get into the visualizer than it is to pay for your Big Mac.
That,
I promise you they'll.
it is as well. Yeah, as I said, I think it will probably take over a minute to order a Big Mac. Once you try
Yeah.
and it asks you to give to charity and put your card data in. I'm going to time it when I get back to the showroom, but I think it is sub 20 seconds to get the result you need. So it's. So I've got two more questions. What is the least favourite part of your current role at Roomvo? We love the hard
Least
ones.
favorite. You're trying to get me fired on the podcast. That's crazy. My least favorite part is that we want to move so fast, always. And sometimes you just got to be patient. Just like you said, you laughed, how long did it take? You thought it was going to take 10 years and it took three. And that's true. I want it to take 3 months, and so your comment about watch this, that resonates with me deeply because speed is always something that not reckless, not moving recklessly, but when you have a vision and you get excited, and sometimes that's just at the mercy of consumer adoption, and it takes time to build reputation. That's probably the most frustrating part. You got a lot to do and only so much time, and you want it done tomorrow.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And the hardest question on the UK Flooring podcast, personally, what is holding you back?
Oh man, you're trying to unlock demons of my childhood and be fired at this.
Told you. We go all in.
What's holding me What's holding me back is the classic. Let's talk about Europe, right? Because there's just so many different ways to look at what's holding me back, depending on the geographic region or the product. But let's talk about the UK, and separately we can talk about Europe. But at the core, what's holding us back is the network effect. That to build a platform where retailers get value out of having manufacturers in a platform, and manufacturers get value by having a lot of retailers using that platform. You got to build up both sides at once to a place where they start to get to their own escape velocity, right? And so, look, I listed a ton of brands at the beginning of the call, so now we're starting to see it. And so I'm thinking that the floodgate's about to open here for what it's worth. But that's what's traditionally held us back. But when you list the brands that we just listed, when you have a showroom of the future with free beer, I think you said free beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like that's where things start to change. So I think the shackles are about to be unleashed here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that brings me on to the last thing. So, what we're going to do is we'll drop all the links that people need. If you listen to this podcast and you are a contractor in a van or you're a retailer, we're going to have, I think it'll be Cockrell & Co /Roomvo. So we'll have a way of reaching out to Cockrell & Co because, again, the first one in the UK that people can come and just play with and drink beer. So, if they just want to come for the beer, that's totally cool. But so that'll be one way, because I was going to ask you what's the best way of getting in contact with you. So I'm going to ask that, but we're going to have Cockrell & Co /Roomvo, which will give you an opportunity to book your appointment to come and play with the software, look how it works, criticize it, use it, bring your own pictures of your own living room or whatever it needs to be. In addition to that, how if someone just wants to chat with you guys, what's the best way?
Yeah, just shoot me an email. It's really easy. It's Brandon@roomvo.com. Brandon, BRANDON @roomvo.com. And look, we have solutions for fitters and retailers, distributors, manufacturers. If you're a company that thinks that there could be an integration opportunity, right? Like really the possibilities are endless here. Reach out. I'd love to chat, learn about your business. And then I'll point you in the right direction on our end because we have different folks who specialize in all of those things and more, right? So, yeah, we're excited about this partnership. By the way, I should just say I don't know if we've ever partnered with anyone who has invested the time, the energy, and the content that you guys have. So I just wanted to thank you personally for having me on the podcast, but more importantly for being one of those people who a lot of people have ideas. They say they want to do all these things. I think you and I spoke about this like 2 or 3 months ago, and there is a showroom built with a kiosk and content around it. Like, talk about watch this in action. So yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
no
I
problem at
want
all.
to
You're
work with
welcome.
everyone.
Yeah, I think the key thing again, it all comes down to a client. Once I see a client experience can be heightened, and if that is, we'll keep going back to this beer or coffee or a visualization tool. It's irrelevant.
Yeah,
That's the bit that it's the watch this because it's a necessity. Why not have the best client experience? Why not? And that's one thing that is the core values of Cockrell and Co. Is the one is the watch this, but the other thing is the stop looking at prices, start looking at client experience. Hands down. It's just
yeah,
stop even analyzing costs. They are important. They are exceedingly important to get them right, but look at your client experience first. That's one thing we live and breathe. So we think it's going to be a great addition to the training centre. Everyone that comes to the training centre in 24, will be getting to mess with this software, and as it develops, as we bring more manufacturers on and more samples and things, but all in this 17 square meter space, just to prove a point. So thank you so much,
thank you.
Brandon, for coming on, spend the time to reveal our big reveal. For the podcast listeners that are avid listeners, we're going to release another 9 slightly shorter podcasts all about visualizers. Hopefully we'll get some people on from the US who are using this every single day, and hopefully some heavy hitters that we can rinse their knowledge of how they've used it, and then also some UK people that are using it in the platform. That's what's coming as well. So watch out for special Roomvo editions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, we're just getting started here. So I'm excited for what we're going to do together.
Bye.